Part 10. Global Copy, My Talent is Called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 91. Water of the Forgotten River God. After use, you can specify a skill to clean and initialize its skill bar. The cleaning skill proficiency will be returned, and the proficiency can be used to upgrade other skill levels. Although there is only one more word God than Water of the Forgotten River, it is obvious that the two are not the same concept at all. Not to mention the additional designated functions, there is also a brand new proficiency mechanism. Now Mama no longer has to worry about me learning the wrong skills. Although this effect is basically useless to Luzaoki, it does not prevent the bright smile from blooming on his face. These are all money. And with such a rare prop, even a strong person at the Sunyao level cannot be indifferent, right? When Luzaoki thought of this, the smile on her face became even brighter. My sister's disease is finally cured. When Luzaoki stepped out of the dungeon, Zhao Sueking and Zhang Heng, who had been waiting outside for a long time, immediately came to greet her. How was it? Which level did you reach? Zhao Sueking asked. Luzaoki gave her a thumbs up. Don't even look at who I am. If I said I wanted to go to the 100th floor, I would go. It's none of my business if it doesn't have 100 levels. Luzaoki added in her heart. Bah! I think you used the golden cicada escape talisman I gave you and escaped in a mess. Zhao Sueking sighed, with a look of disbelief. How is that possible? Here. Your golden cicada escapes from its shell and is returned to you. Luzaoki took out the charm and threw it to Zhao Sueking. Zhao Sueking caught the golden cicada's escape talisman, paused, and handed it to Luzaoki with her backhand, saying, Take this talisman, I have plenty. Ever since she was trapped in a fog dungeon last time, Zhao Sueking's package has never lacked props of this type. No, I can't use it anymore. Luzaoki waved her hand and said smoothly, By the way, do you have any props to unlock the skill bar? Lend me some. Can I lend it to you? How can I borrow this thing? Aren't they all disposable? Zhao Sueking was confused, but she still rummaged through the package for a long time, took out a scroll and handed it to Luzaoki. Luzaoki's purpose for wanting this thing is very simple, because he now has the infinity skill bar. It's a pity that everything is in lockdown. Skill bar unlock scroll. Use an unlock scroll to unlock the first block skill slot. Use 2 unlocking scrolls to unlock the second block skill slot. Use 4 unlocking scrolls to unlock the third block skill slot. The information stops abruptly when it reaches the third block skill bar. However, according to this rule, it may take 8, 4 2, or 16, 4 4, to unlock the fourth one, provided that this prop if you can unlock the fourth skill slot. Luzaoki didn't care at all how many skills it needed to unlock the skill bar. He just put the props in the parcel column once, then took them out and handed them to Zhao Sueking. I'm done. Zhao Sueking. So you just borrowed it to satisfy your cravings. Seeing her strange expression, Luzaoki smiled and said nothing. Eye addiction? No. Of course not. In a corner of Luzaoki's parcel column, she was lying quietly. Skill bar unlock scroll 999, Water of the Forgotten River God 999, Golden Cicada Escape Talisman * 999. Including materials, consumables, and props. The number of all items that can be stacked has become 999, equipment does not count because it cannot be stacked, and even if Luzaoki takes out the items, as long as he has not finished taking them, there is only one item left. The next second, the items in the package column will appear. The props will immediately replenish the quantity back to 999. This is an insignificant little function in the package enhancement branch of his talent Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. The stackable items in the package are automatically stacked up to 999. Luzaoki only regrets one thing now, that is, this function appeared too late. Even if it was earlier, there should be at least one more box in his package at this moment, 10,000 years of Zikuo *999. It's a pity that it was born at the wrong time. I will cry if I continue. Zhang Hong touched the back of his head and asked honestly, Lu Zioqi, have you really reached the 100th floor? What is the final boss? You're kidding. How can I reach the 100th level? Lu Zioqi shook her head and said seriously. The last boss I saw was a humanoid in white robe who was dressed very coquettishly. He had more nonsense than Gino. This monster is too difficult to defeat. It took me a long time, and the explosion rate is not high. It's true that old sows wear morning glory. The uglier they are, the more beautiful they are. Zhang Hong. Although I don't know why, when I hear you talking like this, I always feel like you are going to be in bad luck. Look at the entrance to the dungeon, Zhao Xueqing suddenly shouted. Lu Zioqi and Zhang Hong looked sideways. But he found that the magical vortex that had been sitting on the crystal table suddenly began to twist. As this seemingly unstable distortion gradually expands, the size of the vortex itself slowly decreases. But in just a few seconds, the vortex that was originally as tall as a person shrunk by half. The original crystal table also turned red and began to make a harsh noise. The next moment, the alarm bell sounded. Lu Zioqi's heart skipped a beat. He almost forgot that Lao Bai told him before that after he went out, this copy, secret realm, would cut off the connection with this world. As a result, he was delayed by a lot of things in front of him, but he forgot about this matter. Broken. You should run away as soon as possible. Lu Zioqi was about to move, but Zhao Xueqing held her back. She looked cautious and whispered, don't move. If you leave at this time, even if you have 10,000 mouths, you can't explain it clearly. There is a record of 3 people entering the copy. The dungeon was usually fine, but something abnormal happened after the 3 of them went to the dungeon. It was hard not to make other people think of it. If Lu Zioqi runs away like this again, even if it really has nothing to do with the 3 of them, he still can't explain it. Don't worry, I'm here. Zhao Xueqing said 4 words lightly, which seemed to give people a very reliable feeling. Lu Zioqi was about to speak but stopped. You 2 are innocent and have nothing to fear. The problem is that I am the culprit. Can I not feel guilty? But now that I want to run away, it's really too late. In just a moment of their conversation, the vortex on the crystal table had shrunk to the extreme, and finally disappeared like a bubble with a wave sound. What happened? But in less than a minute, someone rushed to the scene of the accident first. Which blind cultist dares to cause trouble on my territory? Die to me! With a loud shout, a man with a mohawk rushed into the passage and happened to meet the 3 people face to face. What a coincidence, the person who came was none other than Zhao Kongziu. He happened to be patrolling here when he heard the alarm sound. He thought it was the lingering cultists who were trying to destroy the seal and release the monsters in the copy. So he took the lead and charged in. It turned out that 3 young adventurers were stuck in place, and the crystal platform where the original copy was located was empty. There was nothing left, only the crystal platform itself was still glowing with a dazzling red light. The 4 people stared at each other. After a while, Zhao Kongziu asked in confusion. Cultist. Lu Zioqi and the 3 of them shook their heads together. They cannot be defined as cultists, as that would cost them their heads. Family. The family mentioned here refers to the members of the family power. Lu Zioqi and Zhang Hong looked at each other and did not dare to say anything. Only Zhao Xueqing looked at Zhao Kongziu calmly, not panicking at all. Thanks. Zhao Kongziu understood instantly when he saw their expressions. He nodded, put down his weapon, picked up a communication tool like a wristband with his left hand, put it to his mouth and started shouting. Attention all units. There is a suspected cultist invasion. No trace has been found yet. Please block the scene immediately and control the flow of people. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 92. Cultists have always been a headache for the world. The truth they believe in is that the end of the world is coming, and the appearance of copies is a sign. Only by completely destroying everything in the old world, referring to things that do not have attributes, such as unawakened people, ordinary tools, food, etc., can those who survive the disaster be reborn. Stand. Therefore, they will actively destroy the existing order, seal the fog and spread it to densely populated areas, causing disasters, or they will break the sealed dungeon and release the monsters inside. As mentioned before, the difficulty level the above copy needs to be sealed, because the monster inside already has the strength to break the copy and appear in reality. Trying to use this method to plunge the originally orderly world into chaos, and finally usher in the so-called new life among endless ruins. To put it bluntly, these are a group of people who hate them. They are not involved in any good things, but they are everywhere in bad things. This cyberpunk-style square is actually the result of the relevant departments of the Dragon Kingdom uniting the forces of the major families and using a lot of manpower and material resources to seal all the discovered copies within the jurisdiction of this province and city for guarding purposes. Place. It also has a nice name. It's called the Gate of Dimensions, which means the place that opens the door to other copy worlds. Basically every provincial level city will have such a dimension gate. Areas below the provincial level city go to the dimensional gate through the portal. There are a large number of dungeons stored in the dimensional gate, and some of the ordinary dungeons, those with average drops, cumbersome to conquer, high risks and high variables. The following are the dungeons that are not very labor intensive, are labeled and divided. Number the 4 levels of ABCD, corresponding to the 4 levels of dungeon difficulty: nightmare, difficulty, normal, and easy. For example, dungeon number C731 that Wang Liang's father had conquered before, and it is open to all adventurers. Everyone can enter it after paying a fee, commonly known as a ticket, go to the dungeon, and obtain materials, props, and equipment. Part of the fees they pay will be used to maintain the normal operation of the Dimension Gate, and the other part will be handed over to the country to enrich the national treasury. Another part of the more precious dungeons, those with rare drops, or which are relatively simple to conquer and suitable for cultivating talents, are controlled by various forces with unique labels. Their forces communicate with each other, monopolize the market, and exclude ordinary adventurers. Without corresponding relationships, they are simply not qualified to enter these dungeons to obtain better resources, further widening the gap between civilians and family forces. For example, if Zhao Xueqing hadn't led the team in the Tower of Confusion dungeon this time, Zhang Hong didn't know if he would have been able to enter. However, Lu Zhaoqi had absolutely no hope of entering, and would have missed out on the generous rewards and understanding of the hidden secrets behind the dungeon. A chance for the truth. If there is one step difference, there will be a difference every step of the way. In the long run, the poor will become poorer and the rich will become richer, creating a serious polarization. Of course, the country is also aware of this situation and has been committed to improving the situation of civilian adventurers. But there is a very embarrassing thing, because most of the country's manpower is at the border to fight against the fog copies that may appear at any time, and to regain lost territory. For the management of many local areas, such as the security protection of important places such as the Dimensional Gate, they must rely on family power, so they can only turn a blind eye to such matters in many cases. As for the major forces, they are naturally very concerned about this lifeline that is related to their own development. On the condition of the quota of their own rare dungeon resources, they have hired professional adventure groups registered with the Adventurers Guild to be responsible for the development of the dimension. Gate Patrol. The dungeon area with key protection must be their own territory, but for the sake of the relevant departments, ordinary dungeons will also take a symbolic look. The Crescent Adventure Group is one of the people they hired. Their adventure group is very powerful and has an entire UXZ level team, accounting for 1/7 of the total number of UXZO experts registered in the Sichuan and Sichuan areas. As mentioned before, the number of UXZ level adventurers registered in a province or city will not exceed 50, and the number of team members is usually 6-8 people. Naturally, they are widely favored by major family forces. Today happened to be the day when Deputy Captain Zhao Kongzio led the inspection team. He thought it would be the same as usual, another day of leisurely wandering around and watching football. As a result, just when he was about to ask a very serious girl for her contact information, the alarm device on his hand began to vibrate crazily. Look down, what a guy. It was actually the highest level alarm coming from the difficulty level dungeon area of the Zhao family. Although his surname is also Zhao, although the two characters Zhao have the same strokes, their actual meanings are completely different. One is just a small local force that has made some progress, and is not even a family. The other is the head of the 4 major families in the Dragon Kingdom, and is second to none in the world. He couldn't care less about flirting with girls. He didn't even care about the regulations prohibiting flying through the dimensional gate. He directly followed the position displayed by the positioning device on his wrist and rushed forward with a big jump. So the previous scene happened. A few minutes later, Zhao Kongzio took Lu Zioqi and the others to a closed room reserved for staff, intending to separate the 3 of them and ask them what happened individually. What's going on? Tell me. Zhao Kongzio crossed his legs on the table, leaned on the chair and looked sideways at Lu Zioqi. There was a cup of tea on the table. Zhao Kongzio raised his hand to pick it up, blew off the scum on it, and took a careful sip. That pretty little girl was not easy to mess with at first sight. Although he was lustful, he was very discerning and told the 2 female staff members on site to provide him with sex in a nice voice. And he randomly selected one who looked easier to bully, and planned to ask a few questions to deal with the conflict, and scare the new adventurers to satisfy his evil taste. He looked carefully and found that all 3 of them only had star-level strength and were not qualified to do big things at all, so he didn't take them seriously. He just wanted to understand the situation at the scene through them. Lu Zioqi clasped his hands behind his back, looking like a good baby. In addition, he was tall and slender, and wore relatively loose clothes. His face was thin and tender, and fair and white, giving people a feeling of being thin and weak. He blinked, hesitated, and chose to admit his fault proactively. Well, you might not believe it if I tell you. That copy was destroyed by me. Lu Zioqi actually knew it in her heart. For such a big thing, they will definitely turn the entire dimensional door upside down, and they have to figure it out. Instead of just wasting time with them with a sense of luck, it is better to admit their mistakes proactively, and in the worst case, talk about compensation. Well, now for Lu Nouveau Riche endless resources Zioqi, any problem that can be solved with money is no longer a problem. Not to mention that he also has the contact information of General Wang and the truth about the replica invading the world. It's like landlord holding 4 second belts and 2 kings, plus a straight. It can be said that it is full of trump cards and full of security. Fortunately, Lu Zioqi hid quickly, and Zhao Kongzio almost didn't spray the hot tea in his face. Ahem. Just you, he coughed out 2 words with difficulty. Yeah, Lu Zioqi also greeted him with a sincere expression. Zhao Kongzio never expected that such an outrageous statement would come out of this seemingly honest guy's mouth. The key is that he still looks serious and doesn't seem to be kidding himself. Even if Zhao Kongzio was in the late stage of his second-term illness and firmly believed that he was the last light that shattered the darkness in this world, he would never be able to say such bragging words. Momentarily speechless. JPG. Lu Zioqi also had a look of helplessness on her face. If I tell the truth, it doesn't matter if you don't believe me, but you still criticize me. How dare you mock me? Look at that little fool-like look in your eyes. Thanks to my good temper, if I were a handsome reader with a more grumpy personality, I would have to kill you all the eggs in the house would be shaken, and all the earthworms would be chopped upright. The remaining souls of the whole family, young and old, sang neatly on your grave, listen to me and say thank you. Because of you, I buried 2 acres of land. Just when the scene was awkward for a moment, Zhao Kongzio's wristband beeped. He pressed it and heard a man's voice coming out quickly, Zhao Tuan. We found occultist people. They are in Area B and are now fleeing to Area A. Wow, Zhao Kongzio stood up suddenly, Grandma, you are so stupid. Let me catch these brats. After saying that, he didn't care about Lu Zioki, opened the door and rushed out. Lu Zioki looked confused. What's going on? Is there someone rushing to take the blame? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 93. Asshole. Stop. In the passage from Area B to Area A, Zhao Kongziu, who was about to arrive, shouted loudly and slashed at the strangely dressed guys in front of him with a knife fighting slash in an attempt to intercept them. These people were sneaky, wearing grey robes and masks on their faces. This is not a special period, so why are you wearing a mask? Anyone with a discerning eye can tell at a glance that these guys don't look like good people. The man in grey robe running wildly in front naturally noticed the movement. They had just broken through the obstruction of the staff, but unexpectedly, around the corner, they met Yao. Ahem, it was Zhao Kongziu, the god of plague. If he were allowed to delay and wait until other Yuehui level figures arrived, let alone whether the grey-robed man's original plan could be realized, it would be difficult to save his life. Ah! I'm so annoyed. I was actually discovered. The leader of the grey-robed man was a little annoyed. He didn't expect that he had worked hard to investigate for more than half a month, studying the strengths and characteristics of each adventure group's inspection team, each person's preferences and inspection route, carefully planning the steps to be carried out at each time node. Such a careful plan has just begun. It turned out to be a bad start. Declare failure directly. This is unscientific. We just got in. The official action hasn't started yet. Their original plan was to enter the copy of a 031, use special props to destroy the seal of the copy, and then lure the boss in the copy to appear in reality, returning this dirty and corrupt city to chaos. As a result, on the way, before reaching Area A, I heard Zhao Kongzio shouting through the loudspeaker in the square, "Attention all units. There is a suspected invasion of cultists. No trace has been found yet. Please block the scene immediately and control the flow of people." At the same time, the vehicle they were traveling in was stopped by the staff behind the scenes, and the emergency passage was slowly opened, signaling the people inside to go out and gather along the passage. Exposed. Not completely exposed. Although I don't know how it was exposed. Several people looked at each other, but it seemed that it was too late to escape at this moment. It was better to choose to risk everything and fight with them. Done it? Brothers. The leader of the grey-robed man gritted his teeth and made a decisive decision. He immediately ordered to rush out and rush along the passage to Area A. He could not care about anything else but speed up the pace of the plan. As long as the dungeon seal in Area A can be successfully destroyed, even if a nightmare-level dungeon boss is released at will, they will be able to eat away at them. The other adventurers gathered in the square under the command of the staff, waiting for further investigation. The few men in grey robes walking upstream along the passage immediately attracted attention. After repeated attempts to stop and shout to no avail, the staff immediately notified the security personnel who were maintaining order. The security personnel were also adventurers with star-level strength. They rushed up from one side of the passage to stop the grey-robed men in an attempt to control them on the spot. Naturally, the men in grey robes would not surrender, and immediately began to resist. After a fight, their skills contained the black mist aura characteristic of cultists, which exposed their identities. After it was confirmed that they were cultists, the news spread to Zhao Kongziu. So the scene just happened. "You go first. I'll stop you," one of the men in grey robes had a firm look in his eyes. Looking at the incoming attack, he resolutely left the large army. His whole body began to exude purple arrogance, and he used his body to kill Zhao Kongziu. The fighting issued was blocked, the purple flames became stronger and stronger, and traces of black mist emerged around his body. How brave! Zhao Kongziu's mohawked hair was about to stand on end. He widened his eyes and couldn't believe that this cultist who was only as strong as a star dared to stop him. At the moment, I didn't know whether to admire his courage or be angry at his humiliating behavior. But the attack on his hand did not stop. A normal attack with his right hand instantly produced a sonic boom effect, like an invisible air cannon, shooting at the grey-robed man who dared to turn around and block him at a speed of 340 m per second. At his level of strength, even if he doesn't rely on skills, every attack he makes has astonishing power. It's a pity that this group of cultists had already conducted a detailed investigation on Zhao Kongziu and the others before taking action. They even had enough information for analysis on the type of pants he wore every day. It can be said that the grey-robe cultists know his height and length better than he himself. Naturally, he knew his strength well. Since the man in grey robe who stayed behind dared to face Zhao Kongziu's attack, he must have two skills. He shouted loudly, and a golden bell mixed with black energy appeared outside his body, blocking the passage tightly. The air cannon hit it and dissipated without even hearing a sound. "If you want to get there, then step over my body." Golden bell cover. Zhao Kongziu also frowned. This grey robe seemed to be a series of defensive skills of Jingzuan. It seemed difficult to break through his defense without using the ultimate move, but if he used the ultimate move, the damage caused would be counted on his own head. His skills and moves are all wide open and closed. In such a closed environment, it is inevitable that he is a little constrained and unable to let go. If you don't use the ultimate move and the man in grey robe runs away, the responsibility falls on you. If you use the ultimate move and destroys the surrounding buildings, the responsibility still falls on you. What is my special picture? Why is it that everyone on the left and right is losing blood? So annoying. Zhao Kongziu was fighting fiercely with the cultists here, but Lu Zhaoqi and the others were released on the other side. Originally, the staff just asked Lu Zhaoqi and the three parties who witnessed the situation to describe the scene in detail. They did not suspect that they were the ones who did it. The key is that they did not believe that people of their level had the strength to do it to all this. Zhao Xueqing, on the other hand, immediately gained everyone's trust without any explanation after showing her identity symbol. Joke. The rich daughter of the Zhao family goes to fight monsters in her own dungeon. Who dares to doubt her? Even if someone says in front of everyone, "Yes, I did it, I admit it. Come and arrest me." Don't deal with those things that are there and not there, it's a waste of time. Just skip the extra steps and solve the case on the spot. This way it's good for you and me, and everyone is relaxed. But are you moved? Don't dare to move at all. Zhang Heng, who was in another room, was very cooperative with his work. He honestly explained what he saw and heard, and pointed out in particular that all this happened after the three people came out, and the three people had no knowledge of it at all. In addition, the culprit cultist also exposed his chicken feet in front of everyone. So Lu Zhaoqi, who was put aside by Zhao Kongziu, no longer had any need to continue the interrogation and was released directly. When he walked out of the room, he was still in a daze. "I, the culprit, have already confessed my crime, and yet you acquit me in court?" The three people reunited and looked at each other. Zhao Xueqing and Zhang Hong did not expect to encounter the strange incident of the dungeon disappearing when they went out to play a dungeon, but Lu Zhaoqi did not expect that even such outrageous things would have people paying for his actions. I have to say, these cultists are really good people. The first time, I gave him a baptism without even meeting him. This second time, I directly took the blame for him. It simply moved the top 10 figures in the Dragon Kingdom. But now that their traces have been found here, it is estimated that the entire Shu capital may be in trouble recently. Lu Zhaoqi frowned and was a little worried about her sister. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 94. At this moment, the three of them were sitting in the monitoring room, watching the cultists through the surveillance footage displayed by the camera. As the daughter of the Zhao family, Zhao Xueqing naturally had the right to order the nodding and bowing staff to bring up the surveillance footage. She planned to pay attention to the follow-up progress of the disappearance of the copy. After all, this matter happened right under her nose, and it was her own family's industry. It seemed unreasonable not to pay attention to it. It was only then that Lu Zhaoqi learned from the few words of others that his rich classmate actually had such a powerful background. He couldn't help but look at her several times, and the regret in his heart was self-evident. At first, there was a rich woman in front of me, but I didn't cherish it. But it seems it's not too late to cherish it now, right? The situation shown on the surveillance screen has entered the final finishing stage. Obviously, in the face of official forces that were already on guard, this group of cultists had no way of succeeding. Although the man who looked very brave risked his life to hold back Zhao Kongziu, he had a group of god-level teammates, and with the bonus of home field advantage, he could call up surveillance to locate the location information of other cultists in real time. Before the cultists could even enter Area A, they were blocked by Moonlight-level adventurers who took a shortcut. After a great battle, the cultists who knew they were helpless showed strange expressions and chose to commit suicide while chanting incomprehensible spells. After all the cultists died, their bodies were exuded with thick black mist. After the fog cleared, only a pile of grey robes were left on the spot, and no other clues were left for them. This matter has completely come to an end. Although the trace of the copy is still a mystery, this bad debt has been recorded on the heads of the cultists. Fortunately, we have already cleared the level, otherwise we would have missed this dungeon. Seeing this result, Zhao Xueqing breathed a sigh of relief and was a little lucky that she had cleared the level early, otherwise the dungeon would have disappeared and you would not be able to find it even if you wanted to clear the level. This miss is truly forever. Zhang Hong also nodded. He was also a little scared, but the reason for his fear was that the copy that suddenly disappeared was the one he had just cleared. If he came out later in the evening, wouldn't he be trapped in the dungeon and disappeared by the cultists? Only Lu Zhaoqi heard these words, and her expression was a little strange. Tell me, is there such a possibility? If I didn't come today, or if I didn't clear this dungeon, so it won't disappear? Of course, the two of them didn't know what Lu Zhaoqi was thinking. Seeing Lu Zhaoqi's strange expression, they just thought that he was stimulated by what just happened. After all, they may not be any better at managing their own expressions than Lu Zhaoqi. After this incident, the three people once again returned to the Adventurers Guild in Chengdu through the portal. Breathing the familiar air here, the three of them relaxed a lot. Zhang Hong turned around and asked Lu Zhaoqi, "Do you need to get rid of so many materials?" Lu Zhaoqi nodded and said, "That must be dealt with. It's useless for me to hold so many materials. Especially the quantity is 999 plus. It's so funny that it can't be sold out." Zhang Hong continued, "Okay, I know a businessman who recycles materials, and the price is quite reasonable." "Huh? Aren't your materials sold to the Adventurers Guild? Or put in an auction house?" Lu Zhaoqi interrupted Zhang Hong in surprise. Zhao Xueqing glanced at Lu Zhaoqi, "Unless you accept a mission from the Adventurers Guild, Don't sell the materials directly to them, let alone the auction house. It's not enough to buy something, but it's really a loss to sell it. How do you say this? Luzioki really didn't know the difference between the two. Their commission is too high. They take part from the seller when selling, and another part from the buyer. The two parts of the commission are essentially deducted from the seller, Zhang Heng said. Therefore, generally speaking, everyone deals privately with trustworthy merchants. The purchase price they offer is much higher than that of the Adventurers Guild and the auction house. Moreover, such merchants are generally supported by major forces. They have their own stores and only provide direct sales to major forces without incurring additional costs. Commission fee. Isn't it? We are all new adventurers, why do you know so much more than me? Luzioki was a little unbelievable. Zhang Heng touched his head and said with a naive smile, my family members told me these. Ah. Luzioki didn't know what to say for a moment. I understand, the official price is too low, and the commission is too harsh, so I use a third-party platform to sell things, right? You told me you had channels. But it's not too late. After all, Lu has now opened endless resources, and the materials in the parcel column are almost endless. The previous losses are basically negligible in the face of this huge amount. Come with me, there is a shop near our house that collects dungeon drops. Zhao Xueqing said, not only materials, but props and equipment can also be purchased. Now that Zhao Xueqing said this, Zhang Heng also nodded and agreed. After all, it is sold to anyone, all at market price. If it is sold to his partner who will conquer the dungeon together, it can also be a favor. By the way, speaking of this, classmate Xueqing, I have a skill book here. Are you interested in taking a look? If you are interested, I will sell it to you at a high price, cross out, low price. Rich woman. Luzioki remembered that there were several mage skill books in her package, and quickly took out one of them, which was the Monterey mentioned before. Zhao Xueqing looked at the attributes and shook her head slightly, this skill book is pretty good, but it's a pity that I can't use it. My talent bonus is only for frost attribute skills. Okay. Then just throw it into your store and sell it? Luzioki nodded with regret. You can put skill books in the auction house. Their market is open to the whole country. The demand for skills and equipment is relatively large, so the price will be better, Zhao Xueqing reminded. Sigh, Luzioki nodded, expressing understanding. To put it simply, materials require secondary processing to create. Selling this to the officials will be a big loss because they don't produce props, they are just movers of props. No matter how good the materials are, they will be sold to others, which is equivalent to them acting as middlemen and earning the price difference between the demand side and the supply side. Therefore, it is recommended to sell materials directly to merchants, stores. They directly serve certain power groups. These families or interest groups need a lot of resources to cultivate their own power. Businessmen are the channels for the materials they acquire. In this way, there is no need for a middleman, and the price is naturally more considerable. Things that have already taken shape, such as equipment and skills, can be sold to officials. Their market is larger, their audience is larger, and they are easier to sell. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 95. Taking Zhao Xueqing's luxury car, Luzioki and Zhang Heng arrived at the shop that Zhao Xueqing mentioned. The name of the shop is Morning Light. The store is not big, but the decoration is very exquisite and luxurious. At first glance, it seems that it is a place for high-end people. There were 5 or 6 staff members wearing uniforms inside. Zhao Xueqing took the lead and pushed open the door. One of the older staff members had sharp eyes and recognized her young boss at a glance. He quickly put down what he was doing, trotted up to Zhao Xueqing, and saluted her, "Second miss, you are well." Several other staff members also put down what they were doing and saluted in unison. Second miss, okay. I'm going to take a look at the equipment that was customized by someone before. You can do your work first. Zhao Shueqing first said to Lu Zhaoqi and Zhang Heng, then turned to the staff member and said, my friend wants to sell some materials, help me entertain them. Yes. Second miss, this staff member looks to be in his 60s, let's call him an old man. He had white hair and looked polite. He nodded to Zhao Shueqing, then faced Lu Zhaoqi and Zhang Heng and said, you two young masters, please come with me. Young master, Lu Zhaoqi felt a little uncomfortable. This was the first time in his life that he was called young master. There was nothing unusual about Zhang Heng's face. I don't know if it was because he was dull or because he was used to this title. The two walked into the lobby and came to a small independent private room. As soon as they sat down, someone immediately brought tea and water, and placed small snacks on both sides. The old man excused himself, turned around and entered the small cubicle on the side. When he came out again, he had a gold-rimmed monocle on his left eye and white silk gloves on his hands. These glasses have a certain identification function, which can help me better judge the properties of materials and determine its price. Perhaps sensing Lu Zhaoqi's curiosity about his outfit, the old man explained simply for a moment. Not all materials are recorded in the book. After all, the number of copies is also constantly increasing. It is normal to find monsters that have never been seen before and props that have never appeared before. At this time, appraisers are needed to evaluate the materials, analyze and judge their value. Please show me the materials you want to sell. Only one sample of each material is enough, the old man said with a smile. After all, materials can be superimposed, which means that the properties of the same materials are exactly the same, so there is no need to check them one by one. You go first, I have much more materials than you. Lu Zhaoqi motioned to Zhang Heng to go first. Zhang Heng nodded, took out materials one by one from the parcel column, and placed them on the square table one by one. The old man began to distinguish the materials. Orc teeth are not very useful. They are usually used to make arrowheads. The market recycling price is 200 each. The breath of the fallen demon can be used to summon demonic creatures. The recycling price is 500 yuan each. Hyena fur is a good material for making armor. The purchase price is around 800. For most materials, the old man only needs to look at them to know the corresponding price. Only a very small number of materials require him to carefully observe and judge before he can confirm the price of this material. This process lasted for about a quarter of an hour, and all the materials on Zhang Heng's body were basically identified. After all, his parcel column had not been expanded, and the types of materials it accommodated were naturally not too many. Some junk materials were given to him. Lost it? Most of the rest are common materials. Only the drops dropped by the Lord Monster Balrog on the 86th floor are special. The old man studied for a long time and then judged based on the identification information that this kind of thing is called Balrog crystal. The material is a rare elemental material that can be used whether it is making props, building equipment, or arranging formations and wards. And based on its characteristics and material, a hefty price is given, 5W/piece. Zhang Heng nodded and said there was no dispute over the price. The two people calculated the total number of each material and came up with the final recycling price, 67W, total price. It was Lu Zhaoqi's turn. The previous materials were basically the same as Zhang Heng's, and the quantity was also very different. She didn't dare to reveal the excess in front of Zhang Heng, because the previous three people's drops were basically evenly distributed. Taking out more materials at this time, wouldn't it make Zhang Heng murmur in his heart? Although Lu Zhaoqi obtained these 999 plus materials based on his own ability, he really couldn't explain it. After the 87th floor, the old man had to study each of Luzioki's materials for a long time, and the prices he finally gave were higher than the last. When it comes to the canine teeth of the three-headed hellhound, the unit price of one tooth has reached 300,000. You know, the three-headed hellhound has 3 heads, one head with 4 canine teeth. The total amount of this material alone exceeds 1.20 W. Not to mention that Luzioki also opened endless resources and the number of materials remained at 999 plus. However, Luzioki was not as excited as before, and her expression became much calmer. How to put it? It should be said that Luzioki has lost interest in money. Because it means nothing to him anymore. Why? God is indeed fair. When you become rich, you also lose the troubles that belong to the poor. Luzioki was content to leave Versailles here. After identifying the drops of the three-headed hellhound, Luzioki decided not to take out the remaining materials for the time being. The previous materials have basically been able to meet his resource consumption in the recent period, and he didn't take out too much of each material. The quantity is maintained at around 10-20 materials, which is the number dropped by his regular monsters. Although his current drop rate is qualitatively different from other adventurers with the blessing of the talisman, it is still not outrageous and is not normal among normal people. The demand for a single material in the same store is not high and is easily saturated. If a large amount of materials emerge at one time and cannot be digested, these materials will eventually flow to the market, which will impact the prices of the same type of materials. Luzioki couldn't just drink the soup for herself and smash the pot with her backhand. So he decided to ask Zhang Heng and Zhao Sueking for the contact information of other shops, and then visited each shop. Even if this is the case, the total amount of materials that the old man finally settled for him has reached a very exaggerated figure, 1273 W. The income from materials alone has exceeded the highest net worth Luzioki has ever had. Multi-millionaire achievement get. But this is not the point. Luzioki coughed and asked the old man, I heard from your second lady that you also accept props here, right? The old man nodded. Then do you think you can accept this? Or can you help me contact the buyer? Luzioki took out water of the forgotten river god. The old man looked calm at first. He glanced at the name of the props and suddenly realized that something was wrong. Then I looked at it again carefully, and then checked the effect of the props in detail. His face changed instantly. Young master, we would like to receive this prop from you, but we cannot give you a matching price for the time being. Wait a moment, I'll go ask the supervisor for instructions. The old man wiped his sweat, politely said excuse me to Luzioki, and turned around and entered the cubicle again. Zhang Heng also saw clearly the full name and effect of the prop at this time. He opened his mouth and looked at Luzioki with dumbfounded eyes. After they cleared the game, their evaluation was not high, they won the game, but there were a lot of good things. After all, they had accumulated 86 levels of clearance rewards. Water of the Forgotten River has also released a few bottles, but it has never released an item as outrageous as Luzioki's. Water of the Forgotten River God. Designated cleaning skills. Proficiency is also returned. What is this concept? How many levels has this guy reached? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 96. Not long after, Zhao Sueking led someone out of the door. She walked to Luzioki in a few steps, confirmed the effect of Water of the Forgotten River God, and immediately said, we will accept this prop. We will accept whatever you sell it for. But we can only barter. If you have any needs, just ask them. As she said that, she glared at Luzioki, why don't you tell me if you want to sell such a good thing? Just give it to me. I almost missed it. Lu Zioki also looked innocent. The tower of confusion exploded. I thought you all should have it. Even if there is no such thing as too much good stuff. What's more, not everyone has the luck and strength like you, Lu Zioki. I dare say that 99% of people don't. Zhao Xueqing glared at Lu Zioki and added, at least normal people are like this. The implication behind the word seems to be that he wants to expel Lu Zioki from the ranks of normal people and reclassify him into the race defined as BT. Lu Zioki also glanced sideways at Zhao Xueqing. What a guy, this little girl is getting more and more presumptuous. When we were not acquainted before, you were cold, arrogant, and aloof. The better the relationship, the more you let yourself go, right? Now everyone has learned to be intersex. After a while, wouldn't it be possible to step on the left foot with the right foot and go straight to the sky? The middle-aged man behind Zhao Xueqing interjected at this moment, this is the Mr. Lu that the second lady mentioned, right? I, Li Fuegui, am the shopkeeper of this small shop. If you have any requests, just ask me directly. This middle-aged man is slightly bald. As a big boss, he keeps his posture very low. Maybe it's because Zhao Xueqing is here. Those who come up are young masters and young masters. People who don't know it think they have traveled to ancient times. The key is that except for him, Lu Zioki, who felt slightly uncomfortable, everyone else looked normal and seemed to be used to it. Could it be that I am out? Is retro style popular right now? Otherwise, why would these people speak so politely? Lu Zioki murmured in her heart, but she didn't delve into it. She showed a rare serious expression and said, I don't have any special needs at the moment. I just want to exchange this for a Sun Yao level adventurer to help me treat my sister's illness. I still have a few bottles on hand. I don't know if I can do it. Your sister's illness? What's wrong with her? I haven't heard you mention it before. Zhao Xueqing frowned and interjected. She was quite surprised that Sister Lu Zioki was seriously ill. Although she had investigated before, she only knew that Lu Wanyi's health seemed to be not very good, but if it was to be called a disease, it didn't seem to be called a disease, right? And it still requires someone at Sun Yao level to treat it? Could it be? Lu Zioki shook her head and looked a little ugly. Sister's situation is getting worse day by day, and I don't know how long she can last. Ever since I went to the clinic for a checkup a few years ago, but the cause was not found, my sister has never been willing to go to the hospital for a checkup again. I asked the doctor specifically later, and he quietly told me that there was actually nothing wrong with my sister's body, or that even if I went to the hospital, the problem could not be found. In this case, we can only rely on adventurers' methods. Solve. But sister is an ordinary person. Lu Zioki sighed. If my sister had awakened her talent before she turned 18, she wouldn't have ended up in this situation. To put it bluntly, it was actually Lu Zioki who caused trouble for her sister. Without Lu Zioki, my sister would not have chosen to drop out of school. If you don't drop out of school, as long as you awaken your talent, even if you feel unwell, it's just a matter of a few bottles of recovery potion. Ding Po Tian just wants to spend some more money to find someone to treat her and purify her. Zhao Xueqing nodded, as expected. This situation is not very special. Since the arrival of the copy, many similar situations have occurred in the past 300 years. Most of them can't find anything wrong with their physical examination, but their physiques are getting worse day by day, their resistance is getting lower and lower, and their bodies are getting weaker and weaker, until their vitality is completely exhausted and they die. Of course, there are also cases of successful recovery after being treated by Sun Yao experts. They have the ability to change the rules and can break the boundaries between adventurers and ordinary people. It's just that most of the patients are from ordinary families, and they simply can't afford enough remuneration to ask the powerful Sun Yao experts for treatment. That's not a problem. Professor Wang from Tokyo University is a Sunyao-level adventurer who specializes in treatment. She has a good relationship with me. It won't be a problem for me to ask her to help treat your sister. Zhao Xueqing said, leave this matter to me, just as a favor to you for taking me through the Tower of Confusion. Zhao Xueqing's words made Lu Zhaoqi's eyes light up, and he suddenly removed the boulder that was pressing on his heart. Lu Zhaoqi showed a rare cautious look, held Zhao Xueqing's hand, and said gratefully, thank you. Although this may not be a big deal to you, to me it is more important than life. Thank you for your kindness. If you need help from me, Lu, for anything in the future, just ask. This bottle of water of the Forgotten River God is given to you. Consider it a testimony of our deep relationship. Zhao Xueqing was grabbed by Lu Zhaoqi's hands in front of so many people, and her face immediately turned red. She quickly struggled away and turned her back. Lu Zhaoqi couldn't see her expression, but only heard her slightly arrogant voice. Said. Who has deep feelings for you? Let's exchange one code for another. You can make your request again. Let's exchange this water of the Forgotten River God with something else. Lu Zhaoqi waved her hands indifferently, it's okay. I'll give this bottle to you, I said so. Isn't it just water of the Forgotten River God? I still have more. The old man and Li Fugui stared at their noses, as if they were completely unaware of everything in front of them. Only Zhang Heng looked at the scene in front of him with a smile, and his expression was more beautiful than if he had married a wife. In the end, Lu Zhaoqi left 9 bottles of water of the Forgotten River God in Zhao Xueqing's shop. Except for the bottle he promised to give to Zhao Xueqing, the rest were used by him in exchange for skills, but others it would take some time to prepare his needs, and he said that he could wait a few days after they had obtained the skills he needed from all over the country before contacting him to complete the transaction. Out of trust in Zhao Xueqing himself, he directly kept water of the Forgotten River God, saying that when the skill arrived, he would just inform him to come and get it. His request is that there are only 2 types of skills, one is a passive skill, and the other is a healing series of skills. Skills that restore physical strength/mental energy and increase the upper limit of mana will be given priority. It doesn't matter if the level is lower. Passivity is naturally better than talking too much. I have said it many times before. Healing skills are his second-hand preparation. If his sister becomes ill and even the strong Sun Yao master is unable to do anything about it, then he plans to do it himself. Zhao Xueqing had already seen Lu Zhaoqi's persistence in passive skills in the Tower of Confusion, but she was a little confused as to why he needed healing skills. Besides, what's the point of having so many skills? Does he have enough skill bars to learn? But what this guy did was always unexpected, and she was used to it now. Even though he didn't know why, he still said that he would try his best to help him collect skills and bring them to him directly when they arrive, so that he would not have to make a trip. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 97. Things happened here, and Lu Zhaoqi got a large amount of money, which can be used to purchase the resources needed for subsequent cultivation. There is also hope of curing her sister's disease. The most important thing is that his talent has been upgraded, giving him the ability to automatically superimpose props, which is very useful. This means that he will never have to worry about resources again. All he had to do was go to the auction house, take a copy of the cultivation resources one by one and put them into the parcel column. In the next second, they all turned into 999 plus, and then Lu Zhaoqi could start having fun playing. So after Lu Zhaoqi came out of the morning light store, she didn't go home. Instead, she went to the auction house before it was too late. If not for anything else, it's just for mopping up. For all things, regardless of whether they are useful or not, buy one first. Just buying one is enough. After some purchases, Luzioki's wallet fell below 8 digits again and she was downgraded to a millionaire. However, he was in a good mood at the moment, humming happily, and had just stepped out of the door of the auction house. At this moment, he casually glanced and found a familiar yet unfamiliar figure appearing on the opposite corner of the street. It's the man in grey robe. Is he a cultist? Have they arrived in Chengdu? Luzioki's expression changed, and she was about to follow him to check the situation. By coincidence, the green light on the sidewalk suddenly turned red, and both sides of the originally still street were suddenly crowded with people, traffic. Several buses passed by slowly, completely blocking Luzioki's view. When the traffic lights changed again, Luzioki looked up. The man in grey robe had disappeared into the vast sea of people and was completely gone. Luzioki frowned, and the smile on his face completely disappeared. He thought for a while, took out his mobile phone and dialed Zhao Xueqing's number. The call was connected within seconds, and Zhao Xueqing's cold voice followed the phone into Luzioki's ears. What's the matter? Tell me. This tone, these words. Previously, Luzioki would have been unable to resist teasing her, but now he was in no mood and said with a solemn expression, Classmate Xueqing, I just saw the man in grey robe. He's in Rongcheng. The man in grey robe. Are you sure? Zhao Xueqing also sounded nervous. They had just experienced the disappearance of the copy, and both of them were sensitive to the word grey robe. Needless to say, Zhao Xueqing's family suffered heavy losses and lost a special copy of the difficulty level. Although Luzioki knew that they were not responsible for this matter, he was the only one who knew what was going on. But people in grey robes equals cultists, cultists equals causing destruction. There's no need to wash this. It is indeed a grey robe, no kidding. The style and appearance of the clothes are very similar, but we can't tell whether they are cultists or not. Luzioki lowered her voice on the last 3 words. This is a taboo word, and the relevant departments are very strict about it. Ordinary people are not allowed to even mention it. Even if someone overhears talking about it at home, someone will come to check your water meter the next moment. Where are you now? Do you know their movements? Zhao Xueqing asked immediately. I was at the door of the auction house, and I had lost track of them, so I couldn't tell whether they were. Luzioki sighed helplessly, frowning. The most important thing is that, for some reason, he felt that the man in grey robe looked familiar. But after thinking for a long time, he couldn't find anyone who matched him, so he could only think that he was being careless. Don't follow alone. Zhao Xueqing's tone became tense. Don't worry about this matter. I will ask someone to investigate. Just pretend that nothing happened. Luzioki smiled bitterly and pretended it didn't happen. How can it be? There are people in this city that I care about. However, he didn't say much to Zhao Xueqing. He said yes and hung up the phone. Then he turned around and dialed the mysterious code the colonel left for him. Beep, beep, beep. A busy tone came, but no one answered it. Is he on a mission? Or are you busy with other things? Luzioki took back her phone, feeling a little heavy. It is easy to hide from an open gun, but difficult to guard against a hidden arrow. Luzioki naturally understands this truth. No matter how much trouble Luzioki caused before, it was all based on one major premise. Others follow the rules. The Dragon Kingdom is a society governed by the rule of law. There may be a gap between the rich and the poor, and there may be some powerful people, but everyone obviously abides by the laws and regulations. There is no such thing as murder and arson. Even if someone else is desperate and secretly resorts to tricks, their lives will not be endangered, let alone their families. Even if a few ignorant people break the rules, they will be retaught immediately. After all, it's 3,202 years ago, who still plays the black and white game? Isn't this just looking for shit? But this time the situation is completely different. If it were this group of cultists who were similar to lunatics, they would not follow the rules or be reasonable. Because the purpose of others is to subvert order and return the world to chaos. They have no bottom line or logic and do whatever they want. If Lu Zhaoqi saw it correctly, they really appeared in Chengdu. No, I have to leave a backup for my sister. Lu Zhaoqi thought about it and had an idea. He summoned Haidu, who was sleeping soundly in the pet space. This little guy doesn't look like a dragon, but he sleeps like a little pig. At this moment, he seemed to be aware of the change in the light. He opened his eyes in confusion and found that his master was hugging him with both hands. He couldn't help but trembled and stretched out his tongue to lick Lu Zhaoqi's face. As a result, Lu Zhaoqi took it away with a look of disgust. Its current image is very mini. The two dragon horns on its head are only slightly raised and not very obvious. The overall image is a bit like a black iguman, with thin and shining scales all over its body. The pictures are 80% similar, please refer to them. It's neither cute nor ferocious, it can only be said to be quite pleasing to the eye. At this moment, being refused intimacy by his master, Haitan Tiu let out a somewhat aggrieved woo sound. Lu Zhaoqi thought for a while, took out a handful of refined grain pills from the parcel column, and fed them to his dragon pet. Haitan Tu sniffed the taste and didn't dislike it. He rolled his tongue and swallowed all the fine grain pills in Lu Zhaoqi's hand. Lu Zhaoqi touched its head and said to herself, "Since you have eaten my food, you have to do things for me." Then he took it to the door of a pet store, pointed at the cute dog inside through the glass, and said to Haitan, "Did you see it? Change it?" Haitan Tiu. It glanced at the Chinese pastoral dog pointed by Lu Zhaoqi with a confused expression, then looked back at its owner with a serious expression. After confirming that he was not joking with him, his young mind was traumatized again. Master, master. I am a noble dragon. You actually turned me into a local dog? I may not be a human, but you are a real dog. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 98. Sister. I'm back. At sunset, Lu Zhaoqi knocked on the door of her yard. Here it comes. My sister took small steps and came over to unlock the door. What are you standing there for? Come in, Lu Wanyi asked strangely when she saw that her brother was blocking the door and not moving. Sister, look, what I brought back for you, Lu Zhaoqi chuckled and took out the hand behind his back. He was holding a cage in his hand, and inside was a little dog that was completely black and looked helpless. Oh! What a cute little puppy! Where did you get it? Lu Wanyi was a little surprised and stretched out her fingers to tease the puppy through the cage. It's called Black Charcoal Head, isn't it cute? Lu Zhaoqi was not surprised by Lu Wanyi's expression. He knew that his sister had no resistance to this kind of furry little guy. The Black Charcoal Head originally didn't want to talk to this fish-lipped human being. He couldn't even identify its noble dragon identity, However, in the face of the owner's increasingly unfavorable expression, it could only cheer up and was forced to go to business. It showed a flattering look to Lu Wanyi, wagged its tail, and used the foreign language skills that it had not yet mastered. Woof woof. Hee hee. This is so cute. Zhaoqi, where did you buy it? The look of love on her sister's face couldn't be hidden. She didn't hear the weirdness of Haitan's cry, and her fingers were already hooked. On its chin, he fiddled with the soft flesh back and forth. Haitantu's comfortable eyes narrowed, and his furry tail was straightened and wagging more joyfully. I didn't buy it. I just saw a guy on the street who wanted to send it to the petting zoo. He said that he was in love and his girlfriend was allergic to the hair on the pet and couldn't keep it anymore. I know you have always liked these little guys, so I took the initiative to talk to him. Lu Zhaoqi spoke without blinking. No. We exchanged contact information and agreed that if he wants to see his pet in the future, just contact me. Lu Xiaoqi waved the contact information of Xie Wenbin and Colonel Xie in front of her sister, and fabricated the process. The one has a nose and eyes. That's right, my sister nodded suddenly, and then became a little worried. Xiaoqi, can our family afford to raise this little dog? What if there is a problem with the raising, and the original owner is held accountable? Don't worry. This puppy is easy to feed. I've already asked. Lu Xiaoqi waved her hand. Before, the original owner only ate leftovers and didn't even buy pet food for it. Hai Tantio you. Yes, yes, yes. I do not deserve. I don't even deserve dog food. And the original owner has given it a detailed examination and vaccinations. It is very healthy. Lu Xiaoqi carried the pet cage and pulled her sister into the yard. In the future, we will cook more when cooking. All right. The main reason is that my sister is usually bored at home alone. Why don't I find a little guy to keep her company? Lu Xiaoqi said with a smile. Usually, my sister can take it with her when she is at home or when she goes out. It just happens to be a pastime. No. It's not that boring. Lu Wanyi's eyes curled up and she shook her head gently, but it's good to have such a puppy in the house. It's energetic. Lu Xiaoqi nodded and said, half admonished and half joking, sister, you must keep an eye on this little guy. It's best to stay with him wherever he goes. This little dog is very energetic. If you don't pay attention, it might tear the house apart. It's not as exaggerated as you said. It's not ha. Lu Wanyi glared at Lu Xiaoqi angrily. Come and eat. After saying that, she added, eat less today. Leave some food for the puppy, don't let it starve. Ah, Lu Xiaoqi looked stunned and slightly jealous. Then what should I do if I'm hungry? You're such a big man, why don't you go to the kitchen to find something to eat by yourself when you're hungry? There are still a few steamed buns in the cabinet. Lu Wanyi rolled her eyes at him, a little funny. This younger brother still has to compete with the puppy for favor. What a little fool. By the way, since you brought it back, remember to build a small nest for others later, and don't just throw it back and ignore it. The sister in turn told Lu Xiaoqi to take good care of the puppy. Lu Xiaoqi nodded in response with a grimace. He Tantu in the cage immediately became energetic when he heard this. Ah! The human being, feelings, is the master of the master. Then I have to please her. Maybe when she is happy, my little dragon can ride on the master's head, turn over as a serf and sing. Oh ho! The great dragon will never be a slave. It was still happy here, when Lu Wanyi suddenly said, by the way, is this puppy male or female? Remember to take it for neutering, otherwise it will cause trouble when it is in estrus. Hai Tantio you. Hashtag %@%yuan. With quick eyes and quick hands, Lu Xiaoqi held down the rebellious dog, suppressed it on the spot, and said with a smile, don't worry, sister, I've seen it, it's a little female dog, no need to be neutered. Black carbon head, oh yes. I am a female. That's okay. However, I feel that you are scolding me, master, but I have no evidence. That's good. Lu Wanyi turned around and went into the kitchen to serve food. Lu Xiaoqi let go of her hand, lowered her head to look at He Tantu, gave him a warning look, and whispered, be honest. Don't forget what I said before. He Tantu covered the dog's head in grievance and made a whimpering sound. When Lu Xiaoqi opened the cage in his hand, released the black charcoal head, and raised his head again, the warm smile returned to his face. He watched his sister bring out the food, and quickly walked over to Lu Wanyi to help serve the food. He Tantu got down on all fours and followed behind his master. When he smelled the aroma of the food, his mouth watered and he circled around his master and the master's master. For a while, the two people and the dog were enjoying themselves. It was night. Lu Xiaoqi lay on her bed and secretly turned on the flashlight. There were 4 secret-looking books placed in front of him. Each move was clearly marked with little figures on it, as well as the corresponding diagrams of human acupuncture points. It was the magic secret book and immortality cultivation technique that Lao Bai gave him. Arranged from left to right are: learn to cultivation from scratch, become a master of cultivation from now, 108 ways to overcome tribulation and become an immortal, postpartum care of sows. There seems to be something weird mixed in? Postpartum care of sows? Could it be that Lao Bai took it by mistake? No. If you think so, you are totally wrong. When Lao Bai threw it to Lu Xiaoqi, he had already roughly read through the 4 books. In fact, the first 3 books only describe some concepts and theoretical knowledge about cultivation, telling you the origins and concepts of cultivation, as well as precautions. Lao Bai's original words were to give Lu Xiaoqi a few books on the most popular exercises at the moment. To put it another way, wouldn't it mean giving him a bunch of trashy stuff? How valuable can something that everyone knows about be valuable? But Lu Xiaoqi doesn't mind it either. It would be nice if someone could give it to her. What kind of bicycle do you want? How did he trick people like Lao Bai? Can he get no points? Only the last one is the actual exercise method. It is a full manual with practical information. Maybe he was worried that if Lu Xiaoqi actually followed the practice, problems would arise. The technique given by Lao Bai is a method of cultivating both life and life. What does that mean? Lu Xiaoqi flipped through the previous 3 theoretical knowledge books and roughly understood them. If you don't have enough realm, you won't be able to practice higher. Once you reach the realm, your strength will slowly increase. In this way, you will not force yourself to practice because you don't know the reason, and practice your chi for a while, causing physical problems, or even end up with a new long ending of going crazy and exploding your body. It was also Lao Bai who was advising Lu Xiaoqi to act within his ability and be cautious. Understand the truth of forcing yourself to be wiped out into ashes. As for why it is called such a name? Ahem, ask Lu Xiaoqi. How could Lu Xiaoqi know? If you want to ask Lao Bai. Maybe this is the bad taste of the strong, crossed out, author. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 99. There is no such thing as cultivation in this world. Instead of calling it cultivation, the method used by the strong to increase their strength is more appropriately called exercise. The difference between practice and exercise is like one person practicing internal boxing or even internal martial arts, while the other insists on running several kilometers every day to hit the gym. Which one is weak and which one is strong has its own conclusion. Whether it is efficiency or energy utilization, a systematic cultivation method will naturally have more advantages, and it will also transform and strengthen the body in a more comprehensive way. The limitations of this world are too great. Even if it is because of the emergence of dungeons, things like skills and talents have appeared in this world. But there is still only technique, no method. If the cultivation techniques brought by Lu Xiaoqi can really be applied in this world, then there is no doubt that he is the man who has created a new era again since the age of adventurers. The great era of cultivation. At this time, Lu Xiaoqi was fully focused on absorbing the new posture, knowledge. That's right. He is just going to secretly cultivate immortality, and then come out with great success and amaze everyone. As we all know, staying up late is harmful to the body, and cultivating immortality is even worse. So Lu Xiaoqi chose to stay up late to cultivate immortality, directly fight poison with poison, and make positive from negative. Only then can he attain the Tao fruit and have boundless magical power. Everyone sitting here will be killed. What time is it and you're still not asleep? He had read the secret manual of the exercises over and over several times. He knew it by heart and was finally ready to start practicing. Tiendeo daddy. Open your eyes, old man. I am your own son. Luzioki sat on the right side of the bed, bowed to heaven, and muttered, please help me succeed in cultivating immortality. Heavenly Deo Daddy, protect you. Then sit cross-legged and start practicing for the first time in a posture with 5 hearts in the sky. 5 minutes passed, and Luzioki was calm and didn't panic at all. 10 minutes passed, and he picked at the instep of his foot. Well, it was a little itchy. 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Half an hour later, Luzioki has already entered the state. I saw his eyes closed tightly, his breathing long and rhythmic, his expression happy, his head slightly lowered, and a trace of water stain hanging from the corner of his mouth. Yes, that's right. He successfully entered sleep state. But what he didn't know was that just when he muttered heaven's way, Daddy, protect your right, the world began to undergo a wonderful change. The first true spiritual energy was born like this. Different from the previous energy of heaven and earth, this ray of spiritual energy is completely suitable for immortal cultivators, or it exists for the purpose of cultivating immortals. Tao gives birth to 1, gives birth to 2, 2 gives birth to 3, 3 gives birth to all things. Soon, a huge spiritual energy craze swept the entire world. The strong men whose realm was above Yue were shocked, opened their eyes, and showed incredible expressions. This power. I feel strengthened. Is this God's will manifested? It's chaos, it's chaos. It's all chaos. Who plucked the string of fate? Ha ha ha. My illness is cured. The world changed in just an instant. On the surface, the world did not change at all, but the actual changes were extremely astonishing. Including Haitan, who was sleeping in the doghouse, beings who were extremely sensitive to the energy of heaven and earth noticed unprecedented changes in this world. Unlike the others who were shocked, frightened, and delighted, a certain black dog just opened his sleepy eyes, uttered a question woo, then turned sideways and continued to sleep soundly. Luzioki, who was sleeping, was also shocked, and her body underwent a magical change. It was different from his previous active cultivation. This time it was the spiritual energy of heaven and earth that took the initiative. Countless spiritual energy invisible to the naked eye turned into whirlpools and poured into Luzioki's body along the Beihui point on his Tianling cap. The majestic power washed through his body. Finally, it moves along a mysterious trajectory. If you look closely, you will find that this trajectory is exactly the same as the mana movement he saw in postpartum care of Saus. This is no longer God's gift of food. What's special about this is that God is force-feeding me rice. If Lao Bai were here, he would probably be so surprised that his eyes would pop out. Because Luzioki's strength is increasing crazily at a speed visible to the naked eye. Without practicing before, Luzioki's realm was probably around the level of foundation building, but as far as cultivation was concerned, he was basically no different from a mortal and had no introduction. But now, his cultivation level has jumped from the generation of Qi to the early stage of Qi training. Then comes the middle stage, the later stage, Dzogchen, the broken mirror foundation building stage, then the middle stage of foundation building, the late stage, Dzogchen. After a brief pause, the power in Luzioki's body gathered strength and charged to a higher level. It was like hearing the sound of a beer bottle cap being popped open. Wave. Luzioki easily entered a new realm. Golden elixir period. At this point, all of Luzioki's mental and physical strength merged into one. All the power in the body is unified, gathered in the golden elixir in the Danshan, and condensed and refined into a brand new power. Mana. And his entire life essence gradually began to change and evolve under the wash of mana. There is a fundamental difference between the real person and ordinary people. There is a difference between immortals and mortals. This is no joke. In terms of longevity alone, the life of an ordinary person is only a few hundred years. And what about the golden elixir stage? Joke. What's the saying? A golden elixir is swallowed into my belly, and my fate is up to me. At this stage, the lifespan has been completely locked by the golden elixir and will almost never elapse. Unless you commit suicide, your body will still be immortal even if it lasts for 1,000 years. When it comes to the Yuan Shen stage, it is even more exaggerated. Even if the body is damaged, as long as the Yuan Shen still exists, he can still roam freely between heaven and earth and remain immortal. According to Lu Zhaoqi's previous understanding, the Moonlight Realm and the Golden Core Realm seem to have similar strengths, and Riyao and Yuan Shen are also very different. But if we just talk about maintenance, the realm of cultivating immortals is indeed slightly better. After reaching this point in his cultivation, spiritual energy was still flowing into Lu Zhaoqi's body, but his golden elixir did not move at all. No matter how much spiritual energy he swallowed, he spit it out again and turned it into pure mana that rippled through Lu Zhaoqi's body. And these magic powers were not idle either. While they were roaming around Lu Zhaoqi's body, they were also transforming his body, turning him into a shape that was more suitable for him. The hidden wounds left by the cultivation of squeezing potential in the past, as well as the deficiencies in the body, are constantly being repaired and strengthened with the surge of mana. If there is a panel for physical attributes, you can see that the four-dimensional attributes, strength, agility, constitution, intelligence, on Lu Zhaoqi's panel are constantly jumping add 1, and add 1 at the moment. Such numbers. And it seems that due to the influence of spiritual energy, Lu Zhaoqi's whole temperament has become more ethereal. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 100. When she woke up, Lu Zhaoqi, who was sitting cross-legged, not only did not have back pain, but felt refreshed. He didn't feel the slightest blush at the fact that he suddenly fell asleep in the middle of practicing. Instead, he shamelessly praised himself, I can fall asleep even if I sleep like this, and my whole body will not be affected at all. As expected of me. What a great little body. Opening the door, Lu Zhaoqi stepped out and immediately felt like she was floating in the air. This is no longer an illusion. He is really floating. With a gentle kick, the whole person floated forward several meters as if he had lost weight. Cold sweat broke out on Lu Zhaoqi's head. Fortunately, at this time, her sister was busy preparing breakfast in the kitchen and didn't notice anything strange about Lu Zhaoqi. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been scared to death. Am I taking off? Lu Zhaoqi herself was a little confused. After all, he fell asleep last night and he knew it, but why did the whole world feel different when he got up this morning? Could it be? Didn't I fall asleep? Did I successfully enter the cultivation state? Lu Zhaoqi quickly and carefully returned to the room, closed the door, and sat cross-legged on the bed. According to the method taught in the book, hold your breath and meditate. Sure enough, he successfully sensed something unprecedented in his body. Gallstones. Pooh. Golden elixir. It's a golden elixir. Lu Zhaoqi was overjoyed, as expected. Tiandeo daddy. You still love your son. Mua. With the blessing of magic power, his control over himself has also decreased a lot, and only then can he lift his legs and float out. After all, after reaching his current state, he can already use his own power to resist gravity and achieve the effect of flying. However, he is now like a baby learning to take steps, and has not fully mastered this ability, so he will drift without paying attention. But it's not a big problem. He controlled the mana flowing in his body and gradually absorbed it into the golden elixir. His body gradually returned to its previous state and he was in control, but it was obvious that the values in all aspects had been greatly improved. In the process, he also discovered changes in his body. Physical strength and mental strength were replaced by magic power. To be precise, the energy absorbed by the body from the outside world is directly robbed by the golden elixir and transformed into a higher level power such as mana to maintain its own needs. With the support of this high-level power, Luzaoki's body was as if it was Suanmei, unable to stop at all. Especially when mana is constantly flowing around the body, this amplification effect is even more obvious. Although Luzaoki has restrained himself now, his condition is much better than before. However, without physical strength and energy, what should he do with his skills? Luzaoki suddenly realized this problem and immediately opened the skill bar. But what made him relieved was that the skill release consumption displayed in the skill bar also changed accordingly. Blade Storm, which originally required at least 8,000 stamina points to activate, now only requires 4,000 mana. Quadruple Power, which originally required 50,000 stamina points and 50,000 mental points each to activate, now only requires 50,000 mana points to activate. To sum up, after physical strength and mental energy are converted into mana, all consumption changes from consuming n points of physical strength/mental energy to consuming n/2 points of mana. The consumption is reduced by half and the consumption method is unified. According to Luzaoki's understanding, mana should be transformed from the combination of physical strength and mental energy, roughly meaning, mana value equals physical value plus mental value, which means that Luzaoki's MP has not changed at all under other conditions. Under the premise, it should be increased to at least twice the original value. Consumption has been reduced to half of the original. This wave of blood profit. Luzaoki was still lamenting the changes in her body when she heard Lu Wanyi shout from outside, "Zaoki! It's time to eat. Get up quickly. Little lazy pig." Luzaoki responded quickly, "I know. I'm up already." Walk out of the room again. The one who was more active than him was Heitantio, who was still sleepily crawling in the makeshift kennel built for him by Luzaoki. As soon as he heard the word eat, he immediately became energetic and rushed to Lu Wanyi and shook his head. Tail. 99% of this dog-like behavior has been learned. Luzaoki no longer worries that it will betray her. The meal in the morning was relatively light, an ordinary bowl of vegetable porridge with a few steamed buns and kimchi. Luzaoki didn't dislike it either, but looking at Lu Wanyi's increasingly pale face, her smile was a little stiff. He said silently in his heart, "Wait. Sister, it's almost time. I'll cure you right away." After more than half a month, Luzaoki once again set foot in the Adventurers Guild. He was a little emotional. Time flies so fast. In the blink of an eye, I have grown from a novice adventurer to a powerful golden elixir. He went to the Adventurers Guild this time for no other reason than to use the viewing function of the Adventurer device to update his information. Before, he could estimate how much his physical strength and energy were, but now that it was converted into mana, his eyes were completely blank. Because he not only changed from an adventurer in the astral stage to an immortal cultivator, equivalent to a new warrior who just left the novice village and directly changed his job to a hidden professional chi practitioner, but he was also promoted to a cultivator in the golden elixir stage in one fell swoop. 4. Second transfer. This resulted in him having to use equipment to accurately locate his strength again. After paying a negligible fee, Luzaoki once again stood on the weird instrument. As the scanning light moves from top to bottom, the indicator light below emits a beep and turns green. This time, there was no need for the staff to remind him. Luzaoki knew it was okay. He jumped down from the instrument and took the certification paper handed to him by the staff. It showed the equipment's certification of his strength. Certifier, Luzaoki. Physical strength, 650. Mental strength, 800. Upper limit of physical strength, 100,350. Mental upper limit, 100,350. Comprehensive evaluation, early moonlight. Really? Luzioki guessed right, the golden elixir stage is basically equivalent to the intensity of the moonlight level. His physical strength and mental strength have reached UXZ level. Although physical strength and mental strength have been converted into mana, the physical and mental upper limits are still displayed after being detected by the equipment. It may be because mana has the characteristics of both physical strength and mental strength, which also results in the displayed physical strength and mental strength being exactly the same, both being a little over 100,000. With the blessing of the Son of Heaven, Luzioki's physical strength and spirit have gained 10 times the amplitude, which means that he should have only had 10,000 strength. This MP is pitifully small, let alone quadruple power. Even Bladestorm is difficult to release. Because his realm improved too quickly, the increase in mana did not keep up. Under normal circumstances, the physical strength or mental strength of Uehui level, taking the major as an example, should be between 30,000 and 150,000. With the improvement of realm and continuous practice, this value will slowly increase from low to high. But no matter what, Luzioki, who now has 100,000 MP, can finally use skills unscrupulously.